What's up guys, Tina here. Credit cards are a trap is probably a statement you've heard of 1,000 times, and there is some truth to it. I thought I understood. I understood the trap. I was like, nah, I know what I'm getting myself into here. Until I was in the trap myself. So yeah, let's find out what this so-called credit card trap is. Okay, intro. So to understand this trap, we first need to understand how credit cards work, how people spend money, and how people use credit cards. And we'll take a look at how those three factors create this so-called trap of a credit card. Okay, how do credit cards work? Think of your credit card as a bank account that can have a negative balance. So when you have a positive balance, that means that you've put in money into your credit card and you can spend the money. And if you have a negative balance, it means you've borrowed money from the bank. Interest is what you get charged when you borrow money from the bank. And that interest is calculated as a percentage of whatever you've borrowed. So for example, a lot of credit cards today will have, let's say, 20% interest rate. And that means that over 1 year, you get charged 20% of what you borrowed in that 1 year. Makes sense, right? But that's not exactly how it works. It's a bit misleading. This interest is expressed in terms of per year. However, in actual fact, when they actually apply the interest rate, they do it on a daily basis. So what actually happens is they'll divide, let's say it's 18%, they'll divide 18% by 365 days to get a daily percentage rate. I think 18 over 365 is probably something like 0.05. So that means that whenever you have a negative balance, they will charge 0.05% of that balance and then add it onto that balance. Every single day you owe money, you are charged interest. That's a fact. Now you might be asking, how come people are able to use credit cards without getting charged interest? How does that work? Well, there's what's called a grace period, which is usually about 50-ish days. What that means is that you don't get charged interest for the first 50 or so days that you borrow money. So that basically means that you can borrow money, as much money as you want from your credit card, and you won't get charged any interest as long as you pay it back within the interest-free period. And that's where the trap starts. Let's move on. Second thing we're going to look at is how people spend money. Let's say, for example, you have a job and your monthly income is 10,000 rands. That's how much is charged into your account or is deposited into your account every single month. It's 10,000 rands. And you're budgeting, you're a responsible adult. You budget your money, you budget 2,000 rands for rent, 2,000 rands for food, 2,000 rands for transport, 2,000 rands for entertainment, and then 2,000 rands for savings. You're a responsible adult. You even budget for your savings. That's your full 10,000 rand budget. Let's say on the 15th of January, a game is released that you really like. You've been looking forward to this game for the longest time, but you've got no money. What do? You can borrow money from a friend to buy that game, but no, I personally don't like borrowing money, especially for dumb shit like buying games. So that's out. You can either wait until the next month, which is ideally what you should be doing, or you can just borrow from your savings account. But usually, if you're a responsible adult, you're not going to borrow money from your savings account just to buy a game. You'd rather just wait until next month and then purchase the game. Right? Makes sense. If it's 22 January and you're craving an ice cream, you're gonna have to wait for payday. A responsible adult is not going to borrow money from other people just to buy a game. So that's typically how you would spend your money. You either budget or you can just spend until you're out of it. But basically, when you're out of money, you have to wait until your next paycheck. How do people actually use a credit card? Well, there are generally like 2-ish ways you can use a credit card. You can either load money to the credit card and then spend the money you've loaded into it, or you can spend money and then pay it back at the end of the month, or as long as you paid back before the interest-free period. Sticking with the same example, let's say I decide to get a credit card and I take the first approach. I load my 10,000 rands into my credit card and then I spend money from my credit card. And when I hit zero, I don't have money, I stop spending. Let's say I decide to go to the waterfront. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon. The sun's shining. Yeah. I can't find street parking, the cheap street parking. So I decide, I've got a credit card. It's only 10 rands for parking. Let me park in the, the paid parking. An hour later, I'm taking a walk and then there's an ice cream stand. I feel like ice cream is pretty hot, eh? Let me buy a 20 rand ice cream cone. It's not that much. I'll pay it back next month with next month's budget. Okay, it's only 20 rands. Cool. Next day, the trains aren't working. And now, I mean, I could use a taxi, but I'd have to walk like, a whole kilometer to get where the taxis are. Let me just Uber to work. It's only 60 rands and it's only for today when the transport is not working. So it's only 60 rands. I'll pay it back next month. So now I owe about 100 rands. I keep making these very tiny ass purchases for the rest of the month. And then at the end, I owe maybe 400 rands. It's not that much. After all, I've got 2,000 rands out of my entertainment budget. The next month comes in, same thing. I really want that ice cream, hey? I'll just pay back next month. And you basically make the same excuses again and again and again. And now at the end of the month, you spend another 400 rands outside your budget. And this goes on and on and on. This is exactly what happened to me. And I think within like 5 months, instead of loading my card at the beginning of the month, I was now paying back what I owed the previous month. So instead of starting the month with the 10,000 rand, I'll start maybe with like 2,000 rands. And then eventually I was starting the month with a zero balance and I would pay back the money at the end of the month. Like, it took a very long time to get to that stage. Don't know why it didn't click, because I had these little spending habits. For me, it was mostly food. Like, I hate cooking, eh? I really hate cooking. And once I got my credit card, it was very easy to just justify, I'll just Uber Eats today, pay back next month. Next thing, I believed I had lots of self-control. Before I got my credit card, I was like, nah, I have self-control. I'm a very frugal person, I don't spend that much money, unnecessary money. I definitely don't go into debt for silly things, but here we are. So when this happened, I was like, okay, how did I go from starting the month with a positive balance to starting the month with a zero balance? Like, what happened? And then that's when it hit me. I was living above my means. The very first month, I budgeted 10,000 rands. That's how much money I make. But in that 1 month, I spent more than 10,000 rands. And I didn't realize it. Another example. I have been using this camera for a very long time. I bought it, I think, in 2nd or 3rd year. And I've been using it ever since. It's a Canon 60D. Very amazing camera. Like, oh man, it made me a lot of money. Like, this is how I made, I think, 2,000 rands out of the 6,000 rands a month that I did back in varsity. However, it's a very old camera. It's like 2012. It has it doesn't even have like autofocus for video. It's a very old camera, and it's 2020. I'm working. I've been shooting for a long time. It's time for an upgrade. So, being the responsible adult that I am, I spent a couple of months researching the best camera to upgrade to, and I eventually came up with the Canon 77D. It's a brilliant camera. So, spent the next couple of months saving up that money, shooting extra gigs, tutoring, getting that money, making sure I raised enough money for that camera. And at the same time, I had the credit card, but I was smart enough not to spend my credit card on the camera. Okay, then I went to Ohms to get my new camera. I asked, can I have the 77D? Just before I pay, the guy next to me was purchasing a Canon, this camera, Canon EOS RP, and it was on sale. I didn't know that. I was like, oh shit, it's on sale? How much is it? Oh, it's brand new. The package is going for 32,000 rands, but if you buy now, you buy it for 26,000 rands. And I had 20,000 rands. I was like, okay. Well, I mean, it took me like 3 or 4 months to raise this money. I can simply work a couple of extra gigs, tutor a little bit extra, save up a little bit of money, and I'll have that extra 6,000 rands. But I have a credit card. I can just spend the money and then save later. So that's what I did. It took me 20 seconds to make that decision. I went in there to spend 20,000 rands. I came out with a 26,000 rand camera. I had about 50 or 55 days to raise 6,000 rands to pay back that money I owed the credit card. What do you think happened? It took me 5 months to clear that balance. And that's the trap. It starts off with small amounts. It's very easy to justify these tiny expenses. And then when it comes to the bigger purchases, because you're so used to borrowing money and then paying it back next month, It's very easy. It was very easy for me to spend that 6,000 rands because I had a long history of just justifying these dumbass expenses. But it doesn't have to be that way, okay? Credit cards, there are a lot of benefits to using a credit card. One of the biggest benefits is building your credit score. There are very few things that are worth going into debt for. Buying a home, that's worth going into debt for. Starting a new business, that's worth borrowing money from an investor to fund your business. In some cases, purchasing a car is good debt. But some things just aren't worth going into debt for. Buying an ice cream is not something that's worth going into debt for. Ubering to work just because you're too bougie for taxis is not worth going into debt for. Cloud is not worth going into debt for. If you're not satisfied with your lifestyle, do not get a credit card. I wasn't satisfied with my food, okay? I don't like cooking, and I didn't realize that it would actually affect my spending habits. If you cannot stick to your budget, do not get a credit card. Credit cards make it very hard to stick to a budget. Thinking back, it was very naive of me to think I could easily manage a credit card. Up until I got my credit card, I've always worked with a fixed amount of income. Like, either, I work or I get an allowance from my parents or, my salary. But with a credit card, it introduces a different dimension to your finances, eh? You have money you can easily borrow without bothering anyone. You can just, you don't even have to ask anyone to borrow that money. It's really crazy to think about it. Okay, that's the trap, explained from my own perspective, from my own experiences. If this trap has come to you in a different format, please share your experiences. I'd definitely love to hear how you have been trapped with your credit card. Leave a like on the video to let me and YouTube know that you enjoyed the video. And before you leave, make sure to check out my previous video on the benefits of a credit card. If you've watched that video, maybe check out this video here. YouTube is very confident you're gonna like that one. Hit the subscribe button and I'll see you next week. Okay, you have a good day.